Good morning, I'm Radical Rick, and today on Extreme Science, we are going to try putting Diet Coke and Mentos in a vacuum chamber. I watched a video the other day, and this guy wanted to see what would happen if you put Diet Coke and Mentos in a vacuum chamber. Problem was, he had a smaller vacuum chamber, and he had made a comment at the end that it was really cool, but he had wished that he had a taller vacuum chamber so it wasn't limiting the experiment. Well, guess what? I have a 4-foot tall vacuum chamber, so let's give it a try and see what happens. Now, if you remember, when we drop the Mentos into the Diet Coke, it causes it to erupt really fast because it's releasing all of that carbon dioxide gas all at once. So in order to create a vacuum and be able to drop the Mentos inside the vacuum chamber, I thought, well, let's just use my claw because I've got my vacuum chamber all set up to where I've got a servo on there and I can open and close the claw without disturbing the vacuum. So I went ahead and poked holes into the Mentos, ran a string through them, hung the string from the claw. So now I could just, once we acquired the vacuum, I could go ahead and open it up like so and drop them in. Unfortunately, that didn't quite work as expected. So we had to come up with another plan. So here we've got a servo mounted on the bottom. The gear comes up, connected to this little plastic piece here, which now as we move that back and forth, as it spins back and forth, it will actually move that plunger in and out. So now we can put it in like that, drop all of the Mentos in, and once the vacuum's created, go ahead and turn it like that, which now drops the Mentos down into the Coke. One other thing that I knew I would need to do was to drill holes in here so that all of the extra Diet Coke could come out when we started drawing a vacuum. As we draw a vacuum, now there's less pressure in there, and so all of the carbon dioxide gas is going to start coming out. And as we know, just like when we put water in the vacuum, we can actually make water boil in the vacuum chamber just by changing the pressure. So once we draw a vacuum on the Diet Coke, it's going to start bubbling before we even drop the Mentos in there. And I didn't want the Diet Coke to get up against the Mentos, so we went ahead and drilled holes to help limit that. So before trying the Diet Coke and Mentos in a vacuum, we need to see what it looks like under normal atmospheric pressure. Now, regardless of how many we put in there, as you can see, we got quite the reaction. But as we got up to 4 or more, you can see that there was so much pressure that it actually forced the top up and sprayed all over the wall, even though I was pushing down on it. So let's go ahead and try a Diet Coke all by itself inside the vacuum and see what happens. Now, it only took about 25 seconds for the carbon dioxide gas to start bubbling out of the Diet Coke. It only took about 2.5 minutes to get to a point where it was no longer coming out of the top. So after 12.5 minutes, I'm pretty sure all of the carbon dioxide gas, or most of the carbon dioxide gas, has been released from this. And what was left there was just actually boiling from the pressure difference. But let's go ahead and test it out and drop in a Mentos. And as you can see, nothing happens. So now let's compare them side by side so you can see the difference in the eruptions as well as how much Diet Coke was left after each experiment. As you can see, all of the ones on the left were done at atmospheric pressure, and the ones on the right were done under a vacuum. We started out with 1 and went all the way up to 6 Mentos in each. Now, if you listen closely on this one with 6, 3 of the Mentos actually got thrown out during the initial eruption, and you can hear them hit the bottom of the vacuum chamber. I think that the coolest thing that I learned doing this experiment was that even though the initial eruption didn't spew out as much in the vacuum chamber, I was really surprised to see the second eruption on those that were done in a vacuum. As you can see, typically the ones with fewer Mentos had a larger second eruption since they contained more Diet Coke and carbon dioxide gas at that moment, except for the one with 6, since it blew 3 of the Mentos back out initially. Don't go anywhere, we've got lots more to come on the Wake Up Show.